This is how to build a successful life coaching, or really any type of coaching business, a health coaching business, a business coaching business. And these are the 7 steps that I find that every successful coach has walked through, whether they recognize it or not. So if you're curious what these 7 steps are so that you can do them and be successful this year, you're in luck, because we're going to get into it right now. Hey, CourtneyLSanders here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to me, I'm a full-time certified 7-figure life and business coach, as well as wife and mom. I wear all the hats and do all the things. Say that 3 times fast, right? So much going on. But I would have never gotten here had I not followed these 7 steps to build my own life and business coaching practice. And these are the steps that I bring my clients through. And so I thought it'd be fun to do a video sharing them with you. So this is how to build a successful life coaching, or really any type of coaching business, a health coaching business, a business coaching business, a finance coaching business. These are the 7 steps that if we were working together, I would walk you through. These are the 7 steps that I've walked through. And these are the 7 steps that I find that every successful coach has walked through, whether they recognize it or not. So if you're curious what these 7 steps are so that you can do them and be successful this year, you're in luck, because we're going to get into it right now. All right, the first step is something that should be obvious, but actually isn't that obvious. And a lot of coaches skip over this, which is why they end up having trouble down the road landing clients or continuing to get clients. And that is learning how to create a transformation. So this is why I have talked about this for years, how it's so important that you have some experience yourself, right? That you have created a transformation in your own life before trying to help others create transformation in theirs. Now, do you need to create the exact same transformation that you've done for others? Not necessarily, but the root of what you have done for yourself needs to be something that you can help others with. For instance, maybe you have, created transformation in the corporate space, and you've done really well with organizational planning and time management, but now you're really passionate about helping stay-at-home moms who are maybe homeschooling their kids and they're having difficulty staying organized. And so now you're gonna coach these stay-at-home moms, but you're gonna use the organizational methods that you learned in corporate America, because again, that was a transformation that you created for yourself and you're applying it to this new audience. So this is what I'm saying. It doesn't need to necessarily be that you've done the exact thing that you are now helping someone else do, but the core root of what you are helping someone achieve, you should have some experience in that, because there's some learning that you can only get by the doing, right? There's some things, yes, that you can learn academically in a book, but there's some nuances to a particular approach that you'll only pick up if you have walked through it yourself. In fact, many of the processes that I put my clients through, and even some of these steps, which we'll talk about in just a second, I learned, again, going through my own process of building a successful life and business coaching practice. So you want to make sure that you know how to create transformation. And one of the best ways to do that is having walked through it yourself. But in addition, you want to make sure that you understand the science of coaching and the science of creating change and transformation in other people. Now, this is something that you can learn on your own. This is also something that if you are interested in taking a certification program, that hopefully that they are able to teach you. But regardless of how you come about this information, you need to make sure that you actually know how to elicit change in people and help them achieve the goals that they are ultimately looking for, because it's not as simple as just simply telling people what they need to do, right? Change is a holistic process. It requires restructuring someone's environment, even half the time restructuring their identity. There's a deep process that you need to walk through. And if you're curious around what my methodology is for creating transformation in my clients, you can actually check that out by checking out this podcast that I have here, which shows how I coach myself to success and how I coach others to success. And this podcast is actually taken from a module inside of my coaching certification program. So if you're curious about the type of information that you'll be learning in that program, definitely check out that video, because it's literally pulled directly from the program. And I decided to make it public as a podcast and a YouTube video because I thought it would be very helpful. So again, you need to master the art of creating transformation. And you do that in a variety of ways. 1, by having walked down the path yourself, but 2, by learning the science of how to create change and how to support people in creating transformation. All right, the next thing you need to do is you need to do something that I have coined as uncovering your iconic insight. So if I see any gaps in the industry, I think this is the biggest gap that so many people miss, and that is coaches not having their own unique framework or their own unique methodology for creating change. So really this goes hand in hand with the first step. If you did the first step correctly, right, you walk down the path yourself, you have understood the science of creating change, and you have your own kind of alchemy for how you are able to get your clients from point A to point B, you really want to look at your story, look at your experience, your values, and a variety of other things. And you want to make sure that you are coming up with your own unique methodology. And again, I call this your iconic insight. This is what has allowed people to not only be successful in their field, but write New York Times bestsellers and really become the go-to big name in their industry, is really rooted in having an insightful methodology that people are like, wow, this is totally unique. I've never heard that before, right? And there's an entire process for how you're able to come up with this. I know a lot of people think like, oh, you have to go back to school or you have to be like some PhD in order to craft your own methodology. And again, that is not true. In fact, we help people do that in as little as 4 months inside of my coaching certification program. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can click the link in the description box below, which walks you through our entire process for not only teaching you how to be a coach, but helping you get an accredited certification through our program, and then coming up with your iconic insight and then packaging it into a coaching program that you can sell. And if you like, we even have an option where we can show you how to build an entire business and brand around that iconic insight so that you have people flocking to you for a lifetime or as long as that you want to run your business. So again, click the link in the description box if you want to learn more about that. But regardless of how you figure this out, it's so important that you have your own iconic insight and you create your own unique methodology, because that is what is going to set you apart from every other coach in the crowd. All right, the next thing you need to do to build a successful coaching business is you need to package that iconic insight, right? You need to package that methodology. It's one thing to be a thought leader or to have a particular methodology that you know can get people results, but then you need to actually package it and structure it into an actual coaching program. And this is something that I see a lot of coaches struggle with because they actually don't know how to craft a coaching program. Oftentimes they're asking questions like, should I have a call every week? Should it be a call bi-weekly? Should it be a Zoom call? Do I talk to them on the phone? Should it be group? Like, they don't understand the structure, but a lot of this is going to be rooted again in your methodology, in the transformation that you are trying to create, because transformation again isn't just about the information. Oftentimes it's about the environment. And so you want to make sure that your coaching program creates a conducive environment for your client to be able to get the very result that you are telling them that you can help them get if they pay for your coaching. So that's really important. It's very important that, again, as a point of integrity, that you really focus on packaging your coaching program the right way. Again, this is something that we teach you inside of my coaching certification program. So again, you can learn more about that by clicking the link below, but make sure that once you have come up with that iconic insight and you know what your methodology is, that you are packaging it appropriately so that your clients can actually get the result if they go through your program. All right, the next thing you need to do, and this is something I feel like I've talked about forever, but it's so important, is you need to build your brand. And you don't just need to build any brand, but you need to build your brand around your iconic insight, right? This is, again, a gap that I see so many coaches miss. They're like, oh, build a brand, great. Let me go hire a graphic designer, get some pretty photos, and just make a brand that looks pretty. And while it's nice to have a brand that looks visually attractive, it needs to be connected to the core offering that you ultimately provide, and that's where your iconic insight comes in. So this is something that you'll want to master. Again, in my program, we teach this in depth. We even have like personality tests and really show you how to build a cohesive brand that not only tells people who you are, but really speaks to ultimately what you do and helps you stand out from the crowd, not because of the way it looks, but again, because of the way it makes people feel and ultimately what you embody, right? What is the insight that you are ultimately known for? And when people lay eyes on your brand, does it feel like that, right? Depending on your personality and what you are offering, it's very important that visually your brand be representative of ultimately what you are offering. So it's so important. Again, all these things go together. Once you have identified your iconic insight and you have packaged it in a coaching program, you want to create a cohesive brand that looks, sounds, and feels like the very thing that you were saying you were the embodiment of. And you'll want to make sure that you do that in a really, really effective way. So that is definitely something that you need to master. All right, I have more where that came from, but first I want to hear from you. Are you building or even growing your coaching business this year? Share in the comments below. All right, the next thing you need to do, which is often overlooked as well, is you need to build your back-end systems. And this is something that I've not only done, but I actually really enjoy, I think because of my ex-engineering background. So if you've heard my story, you know that I originally got my start in chemical engineering. And as I always say, you can take the girl out of engineering, but you can't take the engineering out of the girl. So I really enjoy building back-end systems to allow my business to run. But I find that a lot of coaches get so focused on the glitz and glamour, right? Let me get these photos, let me build these brands, that they forget a lot of these kind of important unseen things. It's almost like an iceberg, right? There's what you see on the top, and then there's all this stuff that happens below the surface that really allows your operation to run. So yes, your methodology and your iconic insight is a big part of that, but also having your back-end system set up, right? What is the point of posting on social media, having YouTube videos, having Instagram posts, if there's no place for people to go after they have interacted with you? All you've done is just created a bigger audience for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you know, these ginormous social media companies, but you haven't really created your own audience because you don't have back-end systems that move people from content consumer to actual subscriber and then ultimately to client inside of your business. And that happens with back-end systems. So you want to make sure that you are setting these up, that you are growing your email list, that you have a way to capture your ideal client's information, and that you are developing a relationship with them outside of social media so that when they are ready, they can ultimately raise their hand and become a client of the coaching that you offer. All right, speaking of social media, the next thing that you need to do in order to build a successful coaching business this year especially is you gotta create thought leader content, right? So most coaches make the mistake of creating content like a content creator or worse, like an influencer. And neither of those things are ultimately gonna help you attract clients who are willing to spend money and who are ready to spend money on your coaching right now. So one of the best things that you can do is, again, be a thought leader by having that iconic insight. So hopefully you see how all of these things really flow together and why having that methodology is so important, because when you do have that unique methodology, you do have that iconic insight that you're known for. One, it makes it a lot easier to come up with social media because you know what you're talking about. But two, when you are creating all of this content, again, you're drawing in people who aren't just like on social media for social media's sake, but who are specifically looking for a solution, and they're attracted to the insight that you bring, and you're showcasing your insight by being a thought leader. So you don't just want to create any old content, you want to create thought leader content to attract ideal paying clients to your coaching business. All right, and the next thing that you need to do in order to build a successful coaching business this year is you need to sell. Yes, selling is service, right? In fact, I call selling pre-coaching because oftentimes you essentially are coaching a prospect into the mindset that they need to have in order to take action for what they say they want, right? So you never want to sell anybody into something because you want them to join. You only want to speak to people who have raised their hand and they're saying, this is what I want, and you are essentially coaching them on whether or not this is the best decision for them. That's really all great sales is, right? It's not, sleazy, used cars salesman sales or forcing somebody to do something that they don't want to do. It's essentially coaching them on a decision that they've already raised their hands and said that they want to make. So selling is hugely important because the selling doesn't stop after they become a client, right? I think this is a huge misconception. Once I get them to become a client, I don't have to worry about sales anymore. Not true. Once they are a client, once they are a coaching client, you're going to have to continuously sell them on their own potential, sell them on your process, sell them on the belief that they can do this, sell them on the new identity that you are helping them craft for themselves, right? It's all sales, right? Coaching is sales and sales is coaching. And so it's really important that you master that sales process before they become a client, because then you can continue to engage in it after they become a client, and essentially you are selling them on themselves. So if nothing else, you want to get good at sales. Don't treat it as this like icky thing that you have to do because you need to get clients, but it's, beneath you. What you really want to do is be, a great coach. All great coaches are great salespeople because, again, they are selling their clients on their own potential. So this is something that you've got to master if you want to be successful in your coaching business this year. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, again, you're going to love my coaching certification program. It's literally everything you need, A to Z, to build a wildly successful coaching business as a certified accredited coach. So if that is something that you're interested in, go ahead and click the link below in order to learn more about it. But otherwise, I cannot wait to see you into my next YouTube video. And if you can't wait for my next YouTube video, make sure that you are subscribed to my podcast, The Courtney Sanders Show, on both iTunes and Spotify. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, CourtneyLSanders on Instagram, where I share the behind the scenes of my life and this business that we are building. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.